Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. We're continuing our journey through the prophecy of Daniel. And again, this is going to be one of the most, again, just power-packed and revelation-filled books you will study through the entire Bible. But anyway, so let's get right to it. I said we're going to get into this image right here, the importance of this image, this prophetic timeline from Nebuchadnezzar's time into literally the end of the world. I want to kind of show you another picture here too, so that as we read this, you're going to get into where are you at here? You're going to see kind of just vividly these artist pictures here, but kind of to give us a more vivid picture. Here is another kind of picture, and again, as we get into Daniel chapter 2, a different kind of artist rendition, but again, it's the same thing. The human form, human statue. What it reveals is the different world dominating kingdoms. So we're gonna in Daniel chapter 2, we're gonna really get into an introduction to a facet of end time prophecy. Okay, so the image you see there represents four kingdoms. So the head of gold is Babylon, the chest and arms of silver are the kingdoms of the Mede and Persians, which Daniel actually lives through. The third kingdom is belly and thighs of bronze, which is the kingdom of Greece, the Grecian kingdom. And then the legs of iron is the kingdom of the Roman Empire. Now, in this particular artist's rendition, he has the feet of iron and clay as the kingdom of the restored Rome. Scratch the restored Rome because it won't say that. We don't know that. And I guess if you want to say the reason why they believe this, and I could say I partly agree, is the idea of the iron. Okay, so you see, for example, the legs of iron, which is the Roman Empire, and then you see the feet of iron and clay. Some believe that this is the restored Roman Empire. All right, but I'm going to say that in itself is not what's going to be declared in the scriptures. The other four will be, and then you're going to see this rock at its feet, made without hands, that will crush this image. It will crush this image, and then it will destroy the image, and then set up a kingdom that will never end, meaning the kingdom of Jesus Christ. And then we said, remember that this is what the entire uh, book of Daniel is really about. It's going to explain this image, teach us this image. Okay, so let's get into it. All right. Okay, so in first chapter 1, we saw how Daniel was one of the first group that was deported to Babylon from Israel. And by the way, if you're going to go back, I would say go back and read Jeremiah and Ezekiel, those two books. Jeremiah details the actual death and destruction of Jerusalem, the conquering of Israel. All right. Here it is, chapter 2. Now, remember we said that verse 21, Daniel remained there, meaning his position. He was deported. And then remember, he was given food to eat. The food that he was given was to prepare him for service. He had to look a certain way. These men were chosen, very chosen to serve only the king of Babylon. And again, these men were eunuchs, so they didn't get married. Marriage was not in their cards. But the wisdom and revelation and knowledge that God gave Daniel, astounding. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2. It says, in the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams that troubled him, and sleep deserted him. So the king gave order to summon the divine priests, mediums, sorcerers, and Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. And when they came and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had a dream and am anxious to understand it. All right. Kind of interesting. Daniel's not here. Daniel is not among this first group right here. And we're going to see a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of for this mentality. Nebuchadnezzar is very not consistent. He's not consistent at all. He doesn't have to be. He's the king. And so therefore he holds absolute power. But I say that because we're going to see this over and over and over again. And you're going to see that he recognized, remember, he acknowledged how Daniel and them were, their wisdom and knowledge far, far exceeded the people he's calling. Now, this is also interesting for these guys because you're going to see that he knows they're fake. And they're getting ready to get caught. They're fake. In other words, notice, so the Nebuchadnezzar says, look, I've had a dream, okay? He says, I want to understand it. So verse 4, the Chaldeans spoke to the king. Aramaic begins here. Let's have maybe a footnote to how the language how it was written. It probably was written into the book here. So this was they spoke to the king in Aramaic. He says, may the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king replied to the Chaldeans, my word is fine. If you don't tell me the dream and its interpretation, you will be torn from limb, and your house will be made a garbage dump. But if you make the dream and its interpretation known to me, you'll receive gifts and reward and great honor from me. So make the dream and its interpretation known to me. Now, they are in a trick bag. First of all, they're fakes. They cannot. So, like a lot of fakes, tell us the dream, king. You tell us, and then we will give you these bogus interpretations. The problem is that the king said, well, I don't remember. And I don't know if you've ever been that way. Maybe I could say that sometimes, maybe because of my age. Okay, so I would admit that, maybe because of my age. But I could say, I have a thought. I remember something, but I don't remember it. And I will recognize it. Like, for example, I will recognize it if I see it. I will recognize it if you tell me, like, hey, this, and so I understand why the king would say, I don't remember the dream, but he certainly would remember it once they tell him. The problem with these guys is, however, they couldn't tell the king because, first of all, remember, we're going to find out God was the one who gave him the dream. So that's the first thing. And there was no way they could interpret the dream. Besides the fact that, first of all, they don't have the gift anyway. I'll say this. You see a lot of these people, and unfortunately, even in the church today, most, if not all, of what you see on social media, television, radio, most, if not all, when people claim that they're prophets, that they have visions, that they have dreams, most are fake. Most. I'm sorry, they are. And you may say, but my favorite pastor, my favorite minister, That when he looks into the screen and he goes, heal, heal, right? Or God is speaking to me, to you out there. Fake. Fake. It is. It's fake. And you'd have clubs where the guy would sit there and they would tell you, the Lord just spoke to me. Sheba, Sheba, ba, 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 ba. The Lord just spoke to me. There's somebody out there in the television audience. You got a tumor on your head, in your brain, and God, right in here, it's gone now. That tumor is gone. Call me, let me know with your donations. That's how it usually comes, right? But you might say, well, why are you mocking that? Because they're fake. I can look into the camera right now, and I probably, you know what? I probably can get a lot more views if I do that. Let me just pray for you all right here. Lord, I just pray. I'm praying for jobs. I'm praying for cars. I'm praying for healing, right? And you know, I know I would get a lot more views if I do that. People love to be, in my opinion, deceived. That they love to be toyed with. And the reality is that people don't know. The reality is they don't have the gift. Now, by the way, let me just say this. I believe in the gifts of the Spirit. I believe in the miraculous. I believe that every gift that is listed in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 was put into the church, that none of it has been taken out. What I don't believe is a lot of these charlatans and these fake people today. And unfortunately, most of them, what you see on television, are fake. Now, if there are true prophets, guess what? Their words will be proven to have come from God. If there are true healers, people will get healed. What is amazing to me, now you think about this. I say I am going to come to a prayer line. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to come to a prayer line. I have a sickness. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up for prayer. And the guy's going to come and he's going to lay hands on me, and then I'm going to fall to the ground. They call it slain in the spirit or falling out under the power. It's not power. That's a show. It's a show. And what is sad about the show is, why would God, if he's going to then exert power to knock me to the floor, why wouldn't he heal me? I would much rather have the healing than to be knocked to the floor. See, that's a show. That's what I'm talking about. That's a show. So we see the same thing that's going on here. That these magicians, they were all prepared to tell him anything. He says, not this time. Not this time. Okay. Verse 7, they answered the second time, may the king tell the dream to his servants, and we will give the interpretation. In other words, they're going to make up something. They probably, it almost seemed like they thought the king was joking. Verse 8, the king replied, I know for certain you are trying to gain some time because you see that my word is final. If you don't tell me the dream, there is one decree for you. You have conspired to tell me something false and fraudulent until the situation changes. So tell me the dream, and I will know you can give me its interpretation. They are in trouble. Okay? They are in trouble. Verse 10, the Chaldeans answered the king, no one on earth can make known what the king requests. So you shouldn't be telling him this, should you? Consequently, no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked anything like this of any diviner, priest, medium, or Chaldean. But the king is asking is so difficult that no one can make it known to him except the gods. But don't you claim to have gifts from the gods? He says, whose dwelling is not with mortals. And because of this, the king became violently angry, and gave orders to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. The decree was issued that the wise men were to be executed, and they searched for Daniel and his friends to execute them. Now, we're going to see this throughout this book. One of the privileges of king and ultimate power also sometimes comes um, um, foolishness, like making these kind of broad sweeping decrees that would affect people. Now we will see this in probably in a couple of chapters down when we get to the Mede and Persians, where they have this law. They call it the law of the Mede and Persians. That once the law is in effect, you cannot change it, and it shows you how silly again men can be. But in this case, you see, the king did not want to execute Daniel, but yet now, because of his foolishness and impulsiveness, here you have. So verse 14 says, then Daniel responded with tact and discretion to Eric, and the commander of the king's guard, who had gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon. He asked Eric, the king's officer, why is this decree from the king so harsh? Eric explained the situation to Darius. So Daniel went and asked the king to give him some time so that he could give the interpretation, give the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah about the matter, urging them to ask the God of heaven for mercy concerning this mystery, so Daniel and his friends would not be killed, but the rest of the Babylon wise men. And the mystery was then revealed to Daniel in a vision at night, and Daniel praised the God of heaven and declared, May the name of God be praised forever and ever, for wisdom and power belongs to him. He changes times and season. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. I offer thanks and praise to you, God of my fathers, because you have given me wisdom and power, and now you have let me know what we ask of you, for you have let us know this mystery, the king's mystery. I'm going to come back. I'm going to stop it here. I want to go back and look at one of the statements he says in verse 21. He says, and he changes times and season. He removes kings and establishes kings. And he says, and he gives wisdom to the wise. Now I want to look at that statement. He removes kings and establishes kings. I'm going to come back to this thought, this revelation here, that God is very much in control. I want you to think about that. God is very much in control. We oftentimes think that God is kind of somewhere off. I believe they call this deism or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But this idea that God created everything and then split, he's nowhere to be found. What we see here, what we just saw there, is God is not. God is very much right now in control. Notice he said he removes kings, he sets up kings. He is very much in control, and I'll elaborate on more of that in the next study. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.